one of the things she was very focused on when I spoke to her was on the Supreme Court decision on the travel ban. And I think she referred to certain justices as the horsemen of the apocalypse. Three of them in particular. But that is something I think, and you guys have too, is that when that was announced by the administration, is her opposition to it. But she is very concerned because now you have a Supreme Court, I think, and just like you when brought the attention to this is, Gorsuch is not going to be on the side of the people. So, and a couple other updates. So I did talk to our DC office, and I know one of the questions that came up last week was, is Sessions going to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee, since he is the Attorney General? The Senate Judiciary Committee has jurisdiction over those issues. So my understanding now is that there are negotiations going on between the AG's office, and I think both the Republicans and Democrats are also talking with Bob Mueller, is how they can do it in such a way that it doesn't interfere with Mueller's investigation. So the individuals I heard they were trying to get before the Senate Judiciary Committee are Attorney General Sessions, Loretta Lynch, and Comey. So those are the three that potentially are in the lineup at some point. So.
Good.
What else was my homework?
We sent the voice letter over.
Oh yeah,
I posted that today.
Yeah.
In case you guys haven't seen it yet, she signed on to a letter to, it's the one I talked about upstairs, questioning why the voice office is there and what they're doing. And that's on the Trump Tuesday Facebook group, and you can put it on Indivisible.
Maybe, has she signed on to any letters about that fake voter fraud committee? You know what I mean? Trump's committee to investigate the illegal voters.
I know he's talked about it. I didn't know if he established any kind of task force or anything like that.
There's a commission, I guess.
Okay.
There is a commission.
Okay.
Right.
But they're looking at actual. I mean, they're looking at more than just his supposed voter fraud. I mean, they've been having some hearings, and the different state secretaries of state have been coming in and testifying.
Okay. So you're saying that the commission is doing some good?
I don't know.
Maybe isn't doing bad yet.
It's not doing bad.
The AMA statement on, what are we calling it, Gil? Where are you?
Mean and heartless Trump kid. Let's brand it.
We're branding it that way.
Mean Trump kid.
I think the senator said mean and ugly. So,
Trump care
But
less.
Trump, mean and
Trump says
heartless.
heart. So
Mean and heartless.
Heartless.
Okay.
The AMA said it violates the first element of their oath, which is to do no harm. It's a pretty damning statement on their behalf. It's hard to ask her to do much more on healthcare when she's literally under the knife today, but please let her know that everything she can do on that issue. We're here, and whatever we can do to help,
Oh yeah.
we are doing that, and we're reaching out to those states
Okay.
that may have vulnerable senators,
Okay.
but we're nervous about this next round.
Yeah. And the senator, like I said, I mean, she wants to get better, so obviously she wants to do her job, and she does not want to miss anything that's going on. But she also is thinking down the line is that if the Republicans are not able to get their ducks in the row to consider this before the August work period is, she's talked to me like, she did her press conference last week with individuals who have serious health conditions that with the passage of the Affordable Care Act, with the elimination of the pre-existing clauses is I think she would like to touch base with individuals back here. So whether it's I think Desi McKenzie, you guys gave me the name last week to follow up with, which I have not. But if you guys know of people like that or specific organizations that you work with, and I know sometimes you have the gentleman from Queens who's here.
Right.
If you know specific organizations that work with groups like that, obviously we have connections, but again, I'm just trying to build some sort of
Maya, is that something you can help with?
So,
Help with what? I'm sorry, I was distracted by the siren.
Yeah, Maya's a pediatrician at Kapiolani.
Okay.
And he's talking about different groups that can, go ahead.
So what the senator talked about last week is, she met with, she did a press conference with some individuals who either have serious health conditions or pre-existing conditions that under the Affordable Care Act, they now have health insurance coverage. Is what she would like to do, she talked to me in August, potentially even if the Republicans particularly don't have the votes set up to take it up before then, is to meet with constituents back here in Hawaii to have a better understanding of what their life is like, what their conditions are like, under Prepaid Health Care Act that we have here, but under the Affordable Care Act, how their coverage has changed. So if you could help me collect information with either organizations, you would say, hey, Alan, this organization is a good, Muscular Dystrophy Association or something that works with individuals, or if you know a specific person that.
I think we could probably manage that. I work with the president of the local chapter of AAP, American Academy of Pediatrics,
Okay.
and then I'm also hooked up with one of the cardiologists at Queens who's been here before, Mahadi Chowdhury.
Yeah.
So I think if he and I, and maybe I'll talk to Mazie Hirono, who is
Okay.
the president of the state chapter of the AAP,
Okay.
and I think as long as we have that much advance notice, we could definitely come up with some people who would be willing to speak about
Okay.
how that has affected them.
Okay. Thank
And,
you.
I mean, and I know that we have a lot of individuals for whom it's true, but, my family is that poster child, and I've got PTSD, and I've gone through breast cancer, and I'm a freelancer, so the only insurance we have is through the ACA. And it's not just me, it's my 2 children, and I'm a single parent, so it scares me to death that if this thing passes, I lose that health insurance. And I know Kellyanne Conway says I can just go get a job and then I'll get the health insurance she probably doesn't think I deserve. But my story, I've got options.
Yeah.
There are people like me who don't, and it's really frightening.
Yeah, Ray from Indivisible. Save Medicaid Hawaii, which is a group that I just came in contact at a meeting on Saturday, has collected some wonderful information, and they just posted, I asked them for some information. They sent me a 2-page thing, which is from the Kaiser Foundation. Okay? Hawaii gets it's all full of facts and figures, who's affected, how many dollars, and everything else like that. Hawaii gets $2.2 billion in Medicaid a year, right now. Most of it goes for the elderly, according to this, elderly, young people, and people with disabilities. If you take 20% of that, that's what the cut supposedly was going to be in the Trump bill. You take 20, you're talking $400 or $500 million for Hawaii. There's no way Hawaii is going to escape the effects of this. It's not, when people say, well, the governor's going to pick up this, and the governor's going to pick up that, and the governor's going to pick up something else. Well, if the governor's $500 million short, and every organization in the state is saying, we're being cut, we need help, can't you give us this, it's going to be a catastrophe. So I think that it would be good if the senator could get these figures that are put out and put it on her webpage. Get that factual information out. It's really devastating when you read it.
And it's
not
searchable
just
by state.
It's not just rhetoric, and you can get it by state.
Right.
It's done by state, but this is for Hawaii. And I wanted to compliment the senator. She's been absolutely fantastic. In fact, one of the things she sent out was the first piece of factual information on how much Hawaii was going to be cut. And I think, given everything that she's been going through, that she could maintain the presence that she's maintained. I mean, she makes Hawaii proud. There's no doubt about it.
Well, she knows she's accountable. So like I said, and what I can also commit to is I don't know when, but sometime in August I will make time for her to meet with you guys again in person. This time. So I'll just surprise you guys one Saturday. I want you to stay. So.
Brian did that to us in February. We just showed up and there he was.
I think I'll tell her, okay, Senator, you only have 15 minutes again. And
Yeah.
I'll see what she does.
I know she knows this, and I know she was as horrified as the rest of us were, but The Capitol Police dragging those people out from in front of McConnell's office was the most horrific thing I've seen in the halls of the U.S. Senate in my lifetime. And I don't blame the Capitol Police. I mean, if you know, and anyone who's been on the Hill, they're good, decent people who just do what they're told. They were told to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Did Mitch McConnell, is that what Mitch McConnell told them to do that?
You know, I don't know that. They were in front of his office. So that would be my guess. I mean, technically they take their instruction from the Sergeant at Arms, but he works for Mitch McConnell. So, lending a voice to how horrific that was, particularly coming from a woman who herself is fighting a life-threatening disease. That's powerful stuff. I mean, what happened there was, it was right out of the United Airlines playbook.
It was the same thing. It was really no different.
But
Except they had a
really
guy in a
People
wheelchair, a
about
woman in a
wheelchairs.
wheelchair with her hands handcuffed behind her back. It's all over the internet.
Yeah,
Have
there's
you
a-
seen that?
I
It's
have,
unbelievable.
I read, but I didn't.
Watch
know.
it.
I
It's
didn't.
there's videos
Wow.
and you've walked those
Was this
halls,
the
you can
Capitol
picture exactly where it was,
They're
yeah.
also
Yeah.
denied bathrooms for the entire day because there was no wheelchair accessible women's restroom in the holding facility. They were denied restrooms. The ones in wheelchairs were denied restrooms because they didn't have a wheelchair accessible bathroom in the holding facility they were being kept in. Yeah.
You don't think of that happening in the U.S. I mean, that's
No,
something
you
you
don't.
see in a developing world
It's brought
country.
enormous shame. There was somebody, I don't remember what TV program it said, I can't believe this is what's happened to the country that is my country. It's so shameful.
And the problem, of course, with
Capitol Police, they're not trained how to, decently and correctly.
you know, you watch the video and, I mean, we all see what we want to see,
Can't
but I
believe
think that
You know,
they were having to do a job, and it was a job they didn't want to do. That's what I see when I watch them.
Yeah.
They were having to do something that they were told to do. But it spreads beyond that. It's become sort of licensed. I mean, we've had Kayla here before talking about some of the indignities as a young woman she faces on the streets of Honolulu. This isn't just in the capital. We aren't treating people well, and we've got a president that's making that okay.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, a deep, deep concern for all of
Okay.
us. And I know, what's her saying? Somebody gets screwed every day?
Yes,
Yeah,
every single moment, second of the day. so.
yeah. Well, there were a bunch in front of McConnell's office that definitely got
Okay,
screwed
I'll,
that
I'll
day.
talk to our DC office,
Yes, and watch that video.
Okay,
You guys, what else?
and then, I know Kayla hasn't been here the last couple of times.
She's
but,
over at Colleen's office
okay.
a lot.
I was waiting for her to be with you because she brought up a situation.
The marijuana and
yeah.
the military thing, yeah.
So we checked with the VA
Okay,
and we were told that that shouldn't be an issue with either their benefits or their pension.
okay.
We're checking with the DOD to make sure that they are, but if they become aware of any issue, if they could let us know, or if
You
they
got
want
it.
something in writing, because I think we just kind of have an email exchange,
Okay,
we can ask for that as well
got it.
too.
She'll appreciate that.
So,
I have a question. I know the Democrats are in the minority, but with something as horrific as what just happened to those disabled people, and now what I'm hearing that there are no bathrooms, can they, look, put Mitch McConnell in, send him to the ethics committee? I mean, can they do something overt and aggressive against, can they do something? Where are the rules?
File a complaint or.
Is there can they do something?
I
I mean, I have no
Yeah.
idea. I know they're in the minority, but excuse me?
I think the way, if I was working for Senator McConnell, the way I would turn it is he would point it to the Capitol Police and saying, I cannot control how police officers do their jobs. I just asked them to kind of dismiss the crowd.
Then
I mean,
somebody ought to bring a
so-
complaint against the Capitol Police.
Stuff like that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And it's the people's.
Even the guy on United Airlines got a multi-million-dollar settlement. I mean, for
Yeah.
being pulled off the plane.
Sure. So
Yeah,
I mean,
let's deliver some
I-
money.
I
we can
guess
find out, but I
that-
think,
yeah.
I think
organization
what we
that
can
serves-
do, particularly maybe in this case, is find out, like you said, if there was a situation that they're not ADA compliant facilities
There you go.
for treating individuals with disabilities.
Let's file a lawsuit.
What is the compliance of the
Yeah.
Capitol Police with
Right.
the Americans with Disabilities.
I'm
Yeah.
sure, I mean, ADEPT held the protest, and that's what they do all day, day in and day out, is protest things like that, so, I mean, if, I'm
And how
sure
are
that
they
they know
trained?
exactly how they should respond, and if you wanted to support them, you know, you could just contact them and ask what they,
Mhm.
They're an
Held a
excellent
protest?
group.
if they're
Adept.
planning on doing any,
Adept.
taking any
Adept.
further action, AT, is it
EPT.
EPT, yeah.
They laid down in front of the buses in Denver because there was no wheelchair functionality on buses, and they got what they wanted in a year.
Okay.
So, but it was really shameful for our country. And by the way, our international approval rating around the world has tanked. It's tanked.
I just was surprised it got so little coverage, and it was sort of a hit, and then it went away.
Right, then it went away.
It's sort of like the Turkish
Overloaded.
protester thing, really.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Essentially, it's a violation of fundamental human rights
Right.
that
Right.
are internationally recognized.
That's right.
So even if they're not supposed to be there, or there's a right to remove, and I don't know the details, there is a respectful and appropriate and legal way
Yes.
to do things, and then there's an illegal way, and beating up on protesters on
Right.
American soil and dragging people out of their wheelchairs on American soil, those are not in accordance with standards that we have signed on to as a nation or that we believe in as a people.
Last time it was Erdogan's thugs, this time it's our own people, doing it to our own people.
Okay.
And your point's a good one, Maya, that our delegation stepped up when we asked about the Turkish thing.
They did,
Yes.
Everybody
that was
stepped up
wonderful.
and sent letters and made noise,
Yep.
and we appreciate that.
yep.
And, I mean, we've said this 100 times, but we cannot be boiled frogs here. I mean, look at what's happening, talking about rights again, like, you know, suddenly no TV cameras in the press briefing room, and no videoing in the hallways outside of meetings. I mean, this is insanity. And the same thing, if we don't get up and yell every single time that fundamental human rights are violated, then we start to think, well, maybe it wasn't that bad, they didn't actually kill anyone, they only beat them. That's just boiling a frog. It's not acceptable to do any of those things.
It's a slow degradation.
Normalization of authoritarian behavior.
And we saw that yesterday when we tried to quickly organize that demonstration outside this building in response to the Supreme Court temporarily reinstating a partial ban on travel. Some of the responses we got back through Women's March, well, what was the boiling the frog syndrome? Well, it's not so bad, and also we heard, oh, the ACLU isn't really standing up to challenge this one. They don't seem as alarmed. And, you know, the fact of the matter is, if this was last year, we would have been much more upset. But it is, what's going on is starting to
I
normalize.
think they're gonna go on individual cases, because there's a real rat's nest there of who has ties to America that entitles them to.
Oh, significant
I-
ties or significant
Yeah, I think
relationships,
that's
and
gonna
that
turn
is
into a hornet's nest
open
of-
to so much
of,
interpretation.
legal cases, and the ACLU
definitely
is
problematic.
planning, I think, to fight it by.
And it certainly doesn't
taking on
help
these cases.
refugees, right?
I'm certainly not a constitutional scholar, but it does seem the Supreme Court issued a legislative decision on this ties to America, ties to the community. I mean, I thought the Supreme Court reviewed legislation, did not pass legislation. I don't understand it,
Well,
but
it's
they
about the
seem to have created a law, unsigned, of course. So, does Congress allow the Supreme Court to pass legislation? I've heard of the separation of powers. This seems to be a reversal
But the
of
legal,
the separation of powers.
leg you have to stand on there is that someone in America, in either an institution or a family or a person, stands to suffer harm if that foreign person does not get their entry into the U.S. And no foreign person abroad has any rights under U.S. law, and that's a long-established judicial principle. If you are a foreigner with no visa or no status, living abroad or physically present abroad, you do not have rights.
But it does appear the Supreme Court created legislation. I mean, and either the executive branch has that power, or the Congress has that power.
The person
So
with
it
the
goes
rights
like-
is the American person or institution that will be harmed by the failure of that person to be able to enter the United States. states.
Well, Gil, to answer your question, I didn't look at the issue very closely, but the way I see it is the lower courts put a stay on the executive order and the Supreme Court partially lifted that stay, so.
But
I mean, I'm not saying that it's right.
But partially, they created a new rule, a legislative rule or executive rule.
Well, they're letting part of the executive order stand.
They're just-
No, that's not in the executive order.
The previous, they're just saying the previous injunction was overbroad because it covered people who had no standing to sue or no right to.
Right.
They can't be irreparably harmed if they have no legal rights and they weren't part of the lawsuit.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying. They've created these different categories
Right,
that
which
weren't
is
even
not
part of the
in-
EO, and it's not part of the original
I don't understand
lawsuit.
that,
Yeah.
but
They would
we
say
can't
that
debate
is based on
constitutional,
the
but
longest.
I would think Congress would, and the executive would be concerned that the Supreme Court created a new standard.
Yeah.
Nowhere else is that standard of
Right.
ties to the community.
Right.
If you have a
Right.
job, or if you have a.
I mean, again-
I don't, I'm an
ties.
attorney, I just disagree with what
Okay.
you're saying, I don't.
Well,
I don't
maybe you
think
can
that's
explain
accurate.
it to me.
It's
Okay.
a long
No,
established
offline.
judicial principle.
They-
I mean, I'm not saying I endorse their decision, but I think it's a little more.
Okay, maybe.
But it is unusual that they made a decision without a hearing, any briefs. I mean, usually the briefs come in, they have a hearing, and then the court issues a decision, so that is unusual.
What they said is it's a short-term decision and they're gonna hear the rest of it in
October.
October.
Oh, hey.
There she is.
Back from the dead. Yeah, I have strep throat.
What else can we do for the senator right now?
I mean, like I say, she knows you guys have her back, so that is, she continues to be very buoyed with the people from this state supporting her. So, and like I said, she's very focused on her work, and that's what she wants to do. So she's going to take care of her health, get better, and make sure her voice is heard on your behalf. So.
How long is she expected to be?
You know, I don't know. I think I tend to be very cautiously optimistic with any kind of medical condition. So her body and her physicians will tell her when she is ready. As you know, I don't know if it'll be as quick as last time. I mean, based on her previous experience, but I don't know anyone who's had a kidney removed. You know, she had the procedure on Wednesday, and then she was discharged by Friday. By the following Monday, she was able to make a vote on the Senate floor. I mean, I think everyone was very surprised by the recovery. I don't know what it's like to have a partial portion of your rib removed, so I don't, but having a bone taken out doesn't sound too pleasant. So, again, she knows that she has to recuperate and get well, and that's her first task of order, take care of herself. But she's very mindful also too.
She'll
that
have to get some chemo.
that hasn't been decided. I think they're gonna decide after she completes this procedure to see what the diagnosis is. But I think what the reason why the senator went with this second surgery, which was not the initial plan, is that they say based on the cancer that she has, and she characterized it. I'm overgeneralizing here because I'm not a physician or anything. It wasn't as aggressive, so they actually said by removing the bone, that's a better option for her long term. But the prognosis for her, based on the doctors, is good prognosis with full recovery. So we just have to be patient. And
You think at this point she's going to be home in August?
she and I are both planning on that. So
Okay.
I anticipate we'll do some town halls probably on the neighbor islands because we didn't get around the entire state when we did R2. But I can let you guys know when those are scheduled because I know you guys have a statewide organization to make sure that you can let folks know ahead of time. So.
Thank you.
Can I flag one issue for you? They've all heard this, I'm sorry to repeat myself, but, in the other room, but, there's a provision of the BCRA, of the Republican Senate, the Senate Health Care Repeal, that I don't think is getting much attention, and I was wondering if maybe somebody on your legislative staff could take a look at it and perhaps use your influence, through the senator's office, or maybe journalists to raise awareness about it. It's a provision that's gonna cut essential health benefit requirement from Medicaid. In the BCRA, it's 126B. And anyway, it seems to me, the way I read it, that the Republicans are saying that Medicaid enrollees under the expansion, the states no longer have to cover essential health benefits, that they can make their own standards. And it seems like some states in lower income, more redder states, I could see, for example, doing away with opioid treatment or mental health. So I'm concerned about that. I don't think it's as much of a concern here in Hawaii, but I'd just like to see if you could look into that. And
Okay. Okay.
And the conversation we had upstairs was, it's a really strong talking point that people aren't talking about right now. Is that when you send the money, but you take away the provisos as to how it's to be spent, you are going back to the wild, wild west. And marginalized people who need that care aren't likely going to get care from that money. Is that?
yeah, and I don't see many people talking about it. I don't really see anyone talking about it, actually, that issue. So.
Okay. Okay.
And lastly, Alan, I'm gonna give you another one of these trackings. So we're 6 months in, and of the 560 key positions, we still have no nominee for almost 386 positions. And this compares to, there's a little chart here, Trump is behind by a quarter to a fifth of what four other presidents at a similar time period have done. So I just wanna have that on Senator Hirono's radar. It's really pretty dramatic how little Trump is gearing up his administration. And while we don't want to have a whole bunch of Betsy DeVos's, there are some people that he has appointed and have gotten into high-level positions that have been good. So we still don't have any FEMA director or any Census Bureau director. There's so many top-level positions that haven't been filled.
And also, I'll send this to Paul, and this was not a position that required Senate confirmation, but the senator wrote a letter, or maybe I did send it to you, Paul. Within the Department of Energy, there is someone that is like the director of Indian Energy.
Yes,
and
that guy,
this
I read
gentleman
about that.
has made statements beforehand about Japanese internment and other kind of misogynistic and bigoted comments. So the senator, along with Senator Cantwell, who's the ranking on the Energy and Natural Resources, I think Tammy Duckworth and Bernie Sanders wrote a letter to Perry asking that he fire this gentleman.
Nice.
So I'll send that to you.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
remember
We just
getting
did that.
one,
We just
but-
did that this week.
Okay.
So,
That was a really ugly person.
And Department of Energy, the only person who's confirmed is Rick Perry, and
Correct.
he's really pathetic. If you actually watch the most recent hearings with, he was being grilled on stuff, he knows nothing about energy. He has no business being in that position.
It's the one he forgot.
Yeah, it's the one he forgot when he was gonna get rid of 3 departments. And he knows nothing. He was, Senator Al Franken was talking to him about, global warming, and Rick Perry has no concept of science. He's like, and I think he admitted at one point in one of his interviews when he was running for president that he got a D in science, and it shows. I mean, he has no idea of the scientific method. He was talking about blue science and red science, and the scientific method, and he has no concept of the scientific method. When he's talking about climate change, it was really striking. I was just thinking, oh God. I mean, the people that are, and so the fact that he's the only person, the only Senate confirmation person in the Department of Energy is just really appalling. I think that's it.
Shall we go? Send her a letter, know we're thinking about her today especially.
I will. Thank you.